Good Sunday evening. We are live and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. The tropics have absolutely exploded over the past week. We have basically unprecedented record setting Hurricane Beryl out there. First ever category 4 hurricane in June ever. So this is very a historic system that's coming across getting actually into the Caribbean here in the next few days. And where is it going after that? We're going to go over the track here in just a few minutes. But first, if you're just down joining us, please click that thumbs up button, that like button. Share this with your friends and family, especially if you know anybody along the Gulf Coast or anybody that's going on a cruise into the Gulf or going down towards the Yucatan Peninsula, towards Mexico and stuff like that. You need to stay up on the weather because conditions, especially towards the end of the week, especially getting towards the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, it's going to go downhill and they could take a direct hit from this storm. So, all right, we're going to get into tomorrow's weather first, and then we'll get into the tropics here shortly. Alrighty, as we go into tomorrow across the region here, boy, up here towards Iowa, northern Missouri, even into parts of central Missouri, going over towards Illinois, Indiana, over towards Ohio, even down into Kentucky, we are way below average. Look at some of these highs for tomorrow. Des Moines, 71 degrees. This is July 1st, and we're talking low 70s for highs up in Des Moines to Chicago, to Cleveland, even around 80 for St. Louis. That's crazy. Usually St. Louis is absolutely baking this time of year. So this is a very good reprieve to all that hot, nasty, humid weather we've had across that area. But on the other hand, down here in Texas, you are in the midst of this heat still. So 101 in Dallas. This is high temperatures. This is not including the heat index. 100 for San Antonio. You go out to West Texas, upper 90s, all the way from Amarillo down to Midland. Out here towards New Mexico, we have some monsoonal flow coming up into the desert Southwest. So Albuquerque, you have a chance of storms. Denver as well, 87 up that way. Get towards the Gulf Coast. New Orleans, good chance of storms for tomorrow, 95. Tallahassee, a chance of storms, 91. Up here towards Charleston, South Carolina, good chance of storms as well, 86 tomorrow. Get up here towards Washington, D.C., 81 degrees. All right, hopefully you guys can see this okay, but this is basically the upper pattern here, 500 millibar pattern. So basically, we have a big high pressure centered over Texas here into Oklahoma. Nice northwesterly flow through the Midwest here, and big trough basically towards the Northeast. They've had some pretty chilly weather up towards New England. They've had a few areas, especially in the higher elevations up here in New York and Vermont, lower 30s for lows even for the past couple of days. Little trough out here out west, but here's the ridge. This ridge is going to be key because, and then another ridge off the coast here. Actually, I need to expand this out because this is going to be the driving factor and where Beryl goes. Hurricane Beryl goes over the next week or so. All indications are going to be going towards the Yucatan Peninsula, which is down here. And then where it goes after that, I'll show you that here in just a second. But some models have it going west-northwest. Some of them go across the Yucatan Peninsula, then take basically start going northwest towards Texas, even Louisiana. So we have to keep this stuff in the back of our mind. We have plenty of time to watch this and refine the track because any little movement in the high pressures and the driving factors in this thing, in this hurricane, will either pull it up towards the coast or take it over towards the Yucatan and then into Mexico. So we'll see how this plays out. But I'll show you all those tracks here in just a few minutes. But as we go throughout the week here, you see this high pressure is basically going towards the southeastern coast here, towards the southeastern United States. Big trough up here towards southern Canada into parts of the northern plains. There's going to be renewed severe weather possibilities up that way, possibly off and on throughout this week, with some more flooding rain possible across Iowa into Minnesota. And I know the Mississippi River's flooding. It's major flooding down through Iowa, and it's going to be going towards this central, or down here towards St. Louis soon, then down to Memphis eventually. But there's major flooding going on in the Mississippi River up here, major flooding in a lot of rivers up here in Iowa, and getting into the Mississippi River, and even the Missouri River has been in flood stage as well. All right, so as we go throughout this week, all depends on where this high pressure sets up across the southeastern parts of the United States, and where this trough, if this trough stays weak up here in the northwest, or up here in the northern plains, that could be good, because then it may not grab this system and pull it north. If this trough right here is stronger, that'll boot this high a little bit further east, and then we're going to have problems, because if this trough is a little bit stronger, the system's a little bit stronger up here in the northern plains, boots this high just a little bit further east. This is where the hurricane is, right? This is where GFS is projecting the hurricane is, right down in here. Like I said, this is stronger. This high comes over here towards the East Coast. This will drive this hurricane possibly into the Yucatan, and then bring it up towards Texas into Louisiana, possibly. So there's a lot of different moving parts and pieces that we need to follow throughout this week. Okay, if it brought threats to the United States, we're probably talking late next weekend into early next week. So probably a week from tomorrow, maybe a week from today or tomorrow. If it came towards the United States, we'll have to keep an eye on it. But like I said, lots of moving parts and pieces here. And this actually has this trough deepening. So is it going to pick up Beryl here, or is it going to kind of shove it off into Mexico? We're going to have to wait and see here. So let's take a look at the very historic Hurricane Beryl as of right now. All right, what you see on your screen here is a satellite picture over the last 12 hours. You can see as the sun sets, picks up on the IR here on the satellite imagery, but well-defined eye. You can see at the last frame here, the eye is starting to fill a little bit. So what that tells me is strengthening is going to stop for a little bit, because it's probably going to go through an eye wall replacement cycle, and then it'll start gaining strength again. This has a chance to get up to Cat 5 territory here. We'll take a look at the latest here from the hurricane reconnaissance aircrafts here in just a second. But like I said, the last few frames here, the eye is starting to fill a little bit. So it's going to be going through an eye wall replacement cycle. So the strengthening is going to stop temporarily, I think. And then this thing's probably going to blow up again. We'll just have to watch the pressures. The pressures start falling again, then we're going to be in trouble. And then here's the Windward Leeward Islands up here, towards up here. And then they have hurricane warnings, and that's going to be this thing's going to be starting to go west northwest, heading towards these islands, and then getting into the Caribbean, in the next few days. Alrighty, so not only Beryl we have to deal with, that's a major hurricane. We have a new tropical depression in the southwestern parts of the Gulf and it's going to be heading into Mexico, and it's possible that it gets up to tropical storm status before landfall, uh, going into Mexico. But there's another system here, and then we have another system behind Beryl. It actually or Beryl that actually has a 70% chance of development. So there could be another named storm coming behind Beryl, coming into some of the same region. We'll go over that here in just a second. All right, here's the latest on major Hurricane Beryl. Like I said, this is the first ever Category 4 hurricane in June, like ever. This is very historic. Also, this is the furthest east a hurricane's ever developed in June as well. So this is a very historic storm. So as of I believe 7 o'clock, we have sustained winds at 130 miles per hour, gusts probably to 150, maybe 155 across this area. We have hurricane warnings out for some of the Windward and Leeward Islands here. Tropical storm warnings up here towards in the yellow here, even including the Dominican Republic over towards Haiti as well. Jamaica. If you know anybody that's vacationing over towards Jamaica, Belize, over towards the Yucatan Peninsula, you got to stay up on the forecast here because this major hurricane. We'll just see how this plays out, but it's national or the National Hurricane Center here is thinking that it comes out of the major category status of Category 3 to Category 2. Still going to be a very strong hurricane. It's going to brush Jamaica and then head straight towards the Yucatan Peninsula. But you can see where the cone starts fading or fanning out here. Remember, the track. This is tracking the center of the hurricane. Okay, so some models have it basically skirting in between the Yucatan and Cuba here. That would be very bad news because then it would have no chance to encounter any land basically and weaken. If it goes over the Yucatan Peninsula, it's going to weaken into a tropical storm and then head back out over the Gulf of Mexico. And then where it goes from there is a big question mark. Okay. So let's go over the latest observations here on the other two systems. All right, we're going to go over the interactive track here. So they're thinking by tomorrow morning, this is going to, like I said, it's going to go through an eye wall replacement cycle, I think overnight, then probably blow up again. So they're thinking in the morning, it's going to have maximum sustained winds at 145 miles per hour with gusts to 175. That's just very bad news for these islands down this way. And then as we get past tomorrow afternoon, things are going to be, fluctuating between 140, 145 with gusts way over 160 miles per hour. And as it heads through the Caribbean, they're thinking it's going to lose some intensity. I don't know if I buy that yet. But we'll take a peek at it. But 125 miles an hour. Then as we go into July 2nd, Tuesday afternoon, 20 mile per hour hurricane with 150 mile per hour gusts. It's still very dangerous hurricane. Still a major hurricane as we get into closing in on Jamaica here. As we get towards the 3rd, July 3rd. And then as it's nearing Jamaica, it's going to be close to a major hurricane, 110 mile per hour wind, still 130 mile per hour gusts. And then as it heads towards the Yucatan Peninsula, still they're thinking 100 mile per hour hurricane here as it heads through the Yucatan. Like I said, this could easily go further south, could go further north. If it goes further north and skirts in between the Yucatan and Cuba and heads towards the Gulf of Mexico, all eyes need to be on Texas to Louisiana, probably to the central to western Gulf Coast here. That would be basically devastating scenario. We don't want this to stay over water. If we can get it over the Yucatan, it will go down to tropical storm status. They're thinking as of July 5th, it'll be down to a 70 mile per hour tropical storm here. Very, very strong tropical storm. But then it'll head back over open waters here, Gulf of Mexico, which are very warm, and then probably re-strengthen. Now, where it goes from there, let's take a look at some tracks on that here in just a second. Let's go over the next two systems as well. Alrighty, here's tropical depression number three. This was just developed here this afternoon. It's National Hurricane Center thinks it's going to hit that tropical storm status before landfall. That's why this tropical storm warning is out for parts of Mexico. The next named storm is going to be Chris. So this could be named storm here in the next few days, or not the few days, probably overnight before it makes landfall. Then, like I said earlier, we have this system out here towards eastern Atlantic here. 40% chance of formation the next 48 hours. Over the next 7 days, has 70% chance of development. It says a tropical depression is likely to form by the middle part of the week, while it moves generally westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. And it's going to go in that same direction as Beryl is right now. So if this gets named, if the tropical depression 3 gets named, and then this orange X here gets named, that name will be Debbie. If the one tropical depression 3 doesn't get named, then this one out here will be Chris eventually. So we're already running through the names pretty quickly across the basin here, and we're just now getting into July. Remember, hurricane season doesn't peak until the second week of September. So we have a long ways to go. This is going to be a very active season. We've been talking about this since March, especially with the supporters as well. All right, here's the tracks on this this Invest 96L, that orange X I just showed you. So here's the tracks on this. A lot of clustering goes right towards the same islands, basically the same track, maybe just a little bit north of there, and then heading into the Caribbean as we head into probably a week from now. So we got all eyes and you stay on this. So all this is the hurricane models. We'll go over each individual model on the Hurricane Beryl here in just a second, but you can see the clustering is going into the Caribbean and heading towards Jamaica as we go towards not this week, but next. So something to keep an eye on as we go into with this system coming up. Alrighty, here's the tracks on Beryl. This is all the hurricane models. Okay, you can see the tight clustering until we get to right around Jamaica here, and then it kind of fans out because it all depends on how strong that trough is coming in the northern plains and where this high pressure ends up across the southeastern United States. You can see a couple models are trying to bring it up towards Louisiana. That's just the outliers here. Basically less than 10%, but we still got to be on guard. Central Gulf Coast to Western Gulf Coast towards Texas. We do have a big clustering coming through the Yucatan Peninsula, which will weaken it and then come over towards head back into the Gulf of Mexico here, and then start going northwest, heading towards Texas. So we're gonna have lots of issues if that happens, but lots of time to prepare for this, or just keep this in the back of your mind. But you should be getting your preparation kits anyways, because there's like I said, there's going to be a very long hurricane season across this area. Here's the Canadian assembles or ensembles here. That purple triangle line, that's actually the latest deterministic model where it's thinking it could go, which is going towards Texas. The control model of the Canadian is actually going towards southern Texas, and then the black square is the ensemble mean. So it's taken all the models, put them together, and that's where the mean is. So some are going towards Mexico, some are going towards Texas, some are going towards Louisiana. So we got to wait and see what kind of happens. Let's go take a look at the Euro. The Euro is a lot further south with this, but then brings it across the Yucatan. Then it kind of takes it northwest. Some hitting Mexico, some hitting Texas, a few outliers hitting parts of Louisiana. Here's the latest GFS. Brings it across the Yucatan. A couple models have it towards Texas, and a lot towards Mexico. You can see the wide range of models here where they're thinking it's going. It all depends on where this high pressure sets up, across the southeastern parts of the United States, and how deep that trough is across the north. And will it pull it north, or will it slam it into Mexico? We'll have to wait and see on that. So that's the latest for tonight. We're going to start having week or nightly updates for the tropics, because we have a lot of followers down here towards the Gulf Coast, and a lot of people going on vacations and stuff that way as well. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will talk tomorrow night.